Hello, I'm Chris, and today we're going to learn how to draw. More specifically, we're going to learn how to draw a person. Now, what you usually want to start with is a nice circle. You want to do it light, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to do it a little darker. Now, as you can see right there, that's a circle. It doesn't have to be the best circle, just enough to start you out with. Next, we're going to learn how to draw the chin, the rest of the face. This is just the base of the face. They rhymed. Now, depending on what you're going to do, like what gender you're going to do, you're going to want to do different styles. For right now, we're learning how to draw a man. Now, for a man, you want to make a bit of a broader face with more of a square, like, jawline. So, I'll show you how to do that. Now, in case you didn't see very clearly, what I did was I made a line right here and another line right here. Then I added onto it with two more lines. Then finally I made two very steep lines to connect each other and made more of a squarish figure. Now, that's not the finished product, of course. We're going to add a little bit to it, but art is all about the basic shapes. Now, what we're going to do next is figure out what the center of the face is going to be. For our purposes, we're going to make the character look head on. Now, to do that, that's simple. We just make the line of the face right in the center. And what the circle we made earlier comes into play. It helps us determine where the eye is and where we're going to put the other body parts. Now, here's where you're going to add some more detail to the face. If you want to make it a little more chubbier, if you like that, you just add a little line that makes the face appear to have more fat. Or if you want to make it a little skinnier, you would erase part of the line you made and add a curved line, like so. See the curved line right there? Brings out the little cheekbone there. There's also more we can do that called shading, but we'll get to that later in the lesson. Now, for my purposes, we're going to leave the face as it is. I'll make it a little bit so it's more smoother, but for the most part, it's going to stay the same. Now, there's our head. So, next part we're going to do is figure out where the hairline is going to be. Now, I would say the eyes, but where this line right here, the one I'm pointing out with my pencil, this is where our eyes are going to be. So we're going to want to make the hairline right around here. It doesn't have to be the best little line. We're just making it so that we know for later what's going to be. As for the rest of the body, that's what we're going to do next. We'll leave the facial features till last because that's the last thing you're going to work on if you're working on a whole body. Next, we're going to work on the actual body itself, like the torso, the stomach, and the hips. To do that, you go from the line we made earlier, and since the person's facing straight up at the person who's drawing, or the viewer of the picture, the line's just going to go straight down. So as you can see what I'm doing here, I am just making a straightish line. It doesn't have to be perfect. After all, this is just the outline. Make it as long as you want it. If you want the person taller, you'd make it taller like this, or if you want them shorter, you would cut it off earlier or erase a little bit. But for the intents of this video, we'll have about medium height right about there. Now, like I said earlier, art is about basic shapes. So for the hips, we're going to add a little triangle just for now so we know that's the hips. Alright, so this is our basic torso, stomach, and hips. Next, we're going to work on the shoulders and the arms. To do that, we think about what the neck would be. I say the neck would be right about here, so it would be this long. Again, if you want to make it longer, you can go down lower with the shoulders, or if you want to make it shorter, you go higher with the shoulders. This is just to tell us where the shoulders are. Now, if you want to do something fancy, like have the person do gestures with their arms and stuff, you can. We might go over that later in the video, depending on the time we have. But for now, we're just going to have the person doing a basic gesture, which is waving. We'll have one arm down and one hand and waving. Now, to do that, you're going to add where the actual shoulders are. So, right at the end of your lines, you're going to make 2 circles. Those are where the shoulders are going to be. Now, for the rest of the arm, you're going to make 1 line. This will be the arm that is not... No, this will be the arm that's waving. This will be the arm that's not doing anything. Just because there's more space on this side of the paper than there is on this side. So, we'll start on the arm that's not doing anything. We give it a good amount. If you want to make the arm longer, you can. But, we're just making it that long. Now, this is not an arm itself. This is from the shoulder to the elbow. Now, we're not making it too long because I want the hand just a little bit longer than the hips, which is what a normal person would look like, which is also another reason for making the hips first instead of working straight on the arms. Now, you will be doing the rest of the body, the rest of the arm, I mean, which will go right about there for the intents and purposes. Now, what I like to do to draw hands, since they are tricky businesses, is draw a bit of a quadrilateral, square, if you will, or a rectangle. Not quite a rectangle, but leave like some white space at the base of the arm and make littler spaces at the end of the hand. That way it'll be easier for you to draw your hand later. Now for the actual waving, we're going to make the arm this way. Just about the same length here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just if you really want it to be perfect, you can use your pencil and measure like this. You see, you have to tip the pencil at the end of the circle, and you put your thumb right where the beginning of the other circle will go, and then you put it at your line, and that's exactly right there. But that might not happen for you, so if you want it perfect, then I would suggest you do what I just did, except for maybe doing this way instead, where the lead touches the end of this circle instead, and your fingers do this, vice versa what I just showed you, and then boom, you can just make a little mark like I did right here where the next circle should be. And then you make where the elbow will be. Now, parts of the reasons artists make these little circles right here is for the different postures of the person. It makes it easier. You want to start out with like basic shapes, as I keep on bringing it. That's very important to start with the basic shapes. Now we'll see how long this is. As you can see, this is just about there. So we will do the same thing we did earlier and make a little mark right there. So that way we can make the line up to the little mark we made earlier and make another little rectangle thing. So now we get the outline for the arms and torso done. Now for my personal preference for the hips is to have this a little bit more rounded, the triangle we made, but that's only because that's how I learned. It really doesn't matter. Now for the legs, you take a line right about there. Doesn't have to be exact. The legs, you're going to be a little more precise with the equal lengthening because it's easier to tell. Now, we'll make the leg about that long to the knee. And I will make where the knee would be right here. Then I will go and do the same on the other side. There's the two knees. And then we'll bring the feet off the paper. Now, if I brought this up a little bit, I could have made the feet, but I did this on purpose. That way, as an artist, you can do what I just did, so you don't have to draw certain elements. I can show you guys how to draw a full figure with feet and everything in a later video, but for time's sake, we're keeping it like this. Now, personally, I don't like where the knees are. I want it a little bit more even, like a little bit more halfway. So I'll bring them down a little bit. Just say right about there. A full circle's length down. Now that's just personal preference. You guys do not have to do this. We'll do that part. Now we're going to work on the second outline. That's right, there's going to be more than one outline. Now you're going to add the cylinders and like more triangles and stuff. That way it's easier to add the finer details when you're done with the second outline. So we're going to work on, I like to work from the top down, as you could tell from the first outline. I'm just adding little last adjustments before I begin. So, for the neck, you're going to want to start out right about here and make a inclined line towards the shoulders, right here. Then from there, say, it can vary from how muscular your guy is. We're going to make this guy a little muscular. And right about here, we're going to start on the actual shoulders. Now, it's fairly easy. You go from this point right here down to where the circle starts. There's shoulders. If you want to make it a little bit more muscular, you can add, like, make this part a little bit bigger by adding the line, or you can make him less muscular by shrinking the neck a little bit and going like that. But we want this fictional guy right here to have a little bit of muscle. That way it's more detailed to draw, but not so much as it'll look a little ridiculous. Not that drawing muscles is ridiculous, I just don't find it particularly attractive as an artist. Now we're going to draw the cylinder of the arm. All it is a basic line to right about there. And for the other one, we're going to start from right here. That way we have a basic idea of where to start the arm, like right there. But we're not to there yet. So we'll take this line down to just above, like just beyond the edge of the circle we made. Then we'll work on this part right here. This is personal preference again, about where you start on the second part of the arm. I like to do this because it just helps me visually. Now, as you can see right there, even though I took this line all the way to the circle right here, I didn't start where I ended. That's because this line right here, this little portion of line right here, is going to be a outline of a crease that will be in the arm to make it look a little more realistic. Now for the elbow, we're going to curve slightly, even though we're going to fix that later, just to give us an idea of how we're going to want the arm. And we're going to bring this line right about here. We don't want to end at the ends of the corners, not the ends of the rectangle hybrid. That's because we want to give our hand a little depth. We don't want it to look like it's the end of the arm with just little weird digits on the end. We want to make it look as close to the hand as possible. Now we'll start on the other arm. This is fairly simple, at least for the outside, the inside as well. All we have to do is make a straight line that's touching this circle right here, the edge of this circle right here, and then bring it down some more so that it touches the edge of the rectangle. Not the corner, but the edge of it. You can see the difference left a little bit right there. Then we're going to start right about just almost touching the circle. Bring it down so it's touching the edge of this circle. Bring it down again so it's touching the edge of the rectangle. Now we're going to add the creases of the arms. You don't want it too big, but you don't want it too small either. So right about there. If you want it longer, you can continue on the line. But we're going for more realistic in this picture, so we're not going to do that. If you want it shorter, you could also end it sooner. But I like my arms to start just about there. Now for the actual body. I like to start right here, about a little ways from where the shoulder is, the circle we made earlier, and go down so that it's just touching this line right here. You might have, if you made this part a little bit too small, you might have to make this line a little way away from where the hips are, just a little bit, you know, enough so that you can tell it's part of the body and not some weird small ligament. Unless that's your art style, then go ahead, good for you. Now we're going to do the same for the other side. Going to get down right about there. See, this is how I like to draw my bodies. I do like art styles of people who make the things skinnier, more cartoonish, but we're trying for a slightly more realistic person. So now we're going to have to draw the legs. I like to start from the outside, as you have beginning to notice at least. I'll go right about here, so it's just barely touching the circle right here. Then I will, like the other line, bring it so that it falls off the edge of the paper. I'll do the same for the other side. Just barely touching that circle right there and going down. Then for the legs, the inside, I like to start from the bottom. You can start from up here, but I like to start from the bottom. Go up. Get it just about touching it. Just barely, maybe not touching it. But you want to make it look like it could touch it. Then we'll do the same for this other leg. Mind you, if you think these legs are too skinny, mind you, this is just the outline, and we are gonna give it more of a muscular tone later in the video. Now we're going to start on the face, on the head. That's where we're going to add the details. But let me make this a little darker so you can see it a little bit better. Just give me a second. Alright. Now, the eyes are going to be roughly right here. I'm just putting circles there. Right there to give me a basic idea. You can barely see them. You don't want it too dark. Like I said, you don't want things this dark because it makes it harder to erase. But so you guys can see it better, I'm making it darker. This is about where the eyes would go. Just making a little outline again. The mouth's going to go right about there, and we'll have the nose in this general area. So the nose can be longer or shorter depending on how you are as an artist. I like to try and make my noses as realistic as possible or as cartoonish as possible, depending on how I feel. For the benefit of you guys, I am going to try to make this a little more realistic. But I'm going to start on the eyes first. I'm erasing a little bit, but I'm leaving enough of the outline so I can see that it's there. You can barely notice. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but here you can just barely notice it. Now, to make an eye, what I like to do is to make a curved line up here, then connect it from right here, right the one end to the other end. That's a decent looking eye in my book. Lots of people have problems with eyes, so if you don't get it right away, that's fine. I probably am messing up a little bit on the eye, but I'm not gonna spend the rest of this video trying to perfect my eye. That can be another video if you guys want. Now we're going to do the same up here. Make that curved line, then make another about like a little quarter circle. There's your eyes. Now for the nose, we're going to start about right there, and we're going to come off the edge of the eyes. Now a nose is pretty much 3 circles, so like 3 half circles. So that's one. So that's one little circle right there, as you can just barely manage to see. Sorry, the camera's not the best on this laptop. Then we're going to make another little half circle right. Here's that one little circle, like I said, you can barely see. You want to bring this up a little bit and make another circle. Okay, I know this nose looks a little weird. Gonna want to make these little half circles a little bit bigger so the nose looks better. Erase those little half circles. If you made them perfect on the first try, good job. I screwed up. There's a nose. I know it's not the best nose, but I don't normally practice the nose myself. This is just a basic tutorial for beginning artists. That's how you would make a basic nose. I'm going to erase this one, see if I can't get you guys a better example. That's a bit of a cartoonish nose. You can go with that route as well. Again, there's the 2 half circles with the big circle right there. I like this nose better. The other one was too wide for me. Now we're gonna accent a little bit more on the hairline right up here, just so I know it's still there, not forgetting it. Erase this outline of the beginning of the head, since we've already started getting the little character we're making facing forward. Gonna make him smiling a little. Add the lips. I know that looks like his mouth's open, but that's because I haven't add the upper lip. Add smiling lines. That's the little like things right here, dimples. I know it looks a little scary or a little creepy, but that's because of my art style. Some of you are going to find that this looks more realistic or more cartoony depending on your character style, and for cartoony you might look a little more happy or a little more freakish like mine. Don't worry, don't be disencouraged, it's just your style. Play off that. Now from here we're going to work on the eyes some more. We're going to give him actual pupils and irises. Now to do that, just make a little curved line. I know you can barely see it. Make a little curved line right there and right there. That way it looks kind of like a circle. You put a dot. Then you do the same for the other eye. Little circle right here, Boom. I'm going to make a bigger eye right here so you guys can see better. Make that big curved line again. This eye is going to look a little better than, or maybe worse than my other eye because it's bigger. Alright, so like I said, you're going to add a curve about right here and another one about right here. See, it kind of looks like a circle. That's what you want. Then you add the pupil right here, right in the middle. You can make the pupil bigger or smaller depending on how you want it. I like to make it a little smaller, that way you can see the iris better. If you're doing a big picture of just of a face, you might want to add a line so you see a nice touch. It's very light on here, so you might not be able to see it. It looks a little weirder when they're darker, but I'm just making it a little darker so you can see them. If you make them a little like light so you can barely see them, it usually gives a nice touch to the eye. Or you can shade it, color it. And when you shade, eyeballs usually get a little shading too. Nothing's perfectly white. Now, back to what we were drawing. Right up here, we're going to draw the hairline, the actual hair. We're not going to make his hairstyle too outrageous over here. In fact, we're going to erase this little part of his head where the original circle was, because I don't think it agrees with the shape of his head. Gonna fix that a little better. It agrees with the shape of his head in my eyes. So we're going to make this a little darker. Now, his hairline, for my purposes, are going to be a little kind of like a military cut. Make that a little square. Gonna color this in. This is the most basic hair you can give a person. If you're trying to make it more advanced looking, this is the wrong video, to be honest. But you could like add try to separate the hair a little bit, give it different shading and stuff. But we're not here to make it hyper realistic. We're here to make it a little bit realistic. Now we're going to work right below the head on the neck. We're going to erase this line right here. Maybe the straight line that was connecting the shoulders, and a little bit of this. We're going to give him a shirt. So to do that, I can still see, you may not be able to, but barely a line of where the outline was. We're going to connect these two like little crevices. You see where my pencil is? Those two little like crevices where the neck meets the shoulder. We're going to make the shirt start there, and we're going to make the shirt meet right where that line was, right in the middle. Then we're going to erase this line so that you can't see it anymore. You can just barely see it, only if you know what you're looking for. You might have erased part of your head in the process of erasing a line. You can just go over that. Now for the neck, you're going to want to add little like accents if you're making it more muscular, like that. Just two little lines. That's how I like, to draw my men. Now, to draw the arms, we're going to erase the first outline we made. Not the second one, not yet, but the first. We're going to leave the hand outline. Now, we're going to make him have some muscle. That's by adding just like a curved line. Not too much. We don't, like I said, I don't want him out. I don't want this one outrageous. So I'm adding the bottom one right here, instead of where the line was, where we had this part. I'm gonna end it there, like start it there, or end it depending on how you look at it. But I'm not gonna start like right there where we had it the first time, because then the arm would look a little weird in my eyes. You could do it if you want. We're gonna end the muscle like right there, and now we're gonna erase the first outline that was in here. And there, we have a nice, somewhat muscular arm. Now we're going to work on this part, right here, the forearm. We're going to give this some muscle. It's usually in this area on a man where the muscles are for the forearm, right here. And they usually coincide with each other, begin and end, a little bit. If this arm was straight, like over here, you could tell, but you can't really since this guy's waving. And we're going to end at the same place where the wrist was, because one, we're not giving him a very thick wrist, and two, like I said earlier, we want to see the hand. Now, erase all that stuff. Add a little line over here so you know that's like his arm. Crunched. And we're going to add the shirt right there. You can make it long sleeve if you want. I don't want to. Now we add little lines so you can tell this is the muscle. Faint. They're just little details. And we'll work on the hand. We'll actually work on the hand. Now this is something lots of artists have a problem with. What I like to do is start with a half circle already with my box. Then with the box, I use it kind of as an outline to draw the fingers. There's the thumb, there's the fingers. This finger's a little dark. And we'll erase that little line. We'll erase this line. Erase that little line that kind of got in there with the fingers. Retrace the fingers, because in case you erased it, or in my case I erased a little bit, you trace a little outline you erase. Make the hand stick out a little bit. Even if you didn't erase it, erase a little part of it in case it doesn't stick out a little bit. And then there's our hand. That's not the best hand, but for my standard, that's a pretty good hand. Now we'll work on this one. I don't really like this. An arm that's straight down. In my eyes, it's a little hard to add muscle, but you guys might like, these. Just depends on your person. Then we'll start like right about here. Right where the stomach or the chest begins. That's where we'll add this muscle. We'll end this little curved line right about at the circle, just like we did for this one. Then we'll start up again right about here. Now, as you notice, I didn't erase the outline right away like I did the last time. That's because I wanted the outline for the straight arm, or at least this circle, so I know where to end and begin. And now I'm going to erase this. Going to have to, so I can make the arm look a little less awkward. As you can see, it looks a little weird. Gonna accent this arm just a little bit more. That means add a little bit more muscle so that it matches with this other arm. This other part of the arm, at least. Now, we're going to want to have this shirts end at the general same pace. Unless you're making your character have a different style. That's pretty cool. I would love to see those things. If you guys want to send me pictures of you guys trying to draw, I would probably see them. Now we're going to add the muscle. Well, not probably see them. We'll try to see them. But we're going to add the accent with muscle right there. Add another little line right here. We're not going to add the another line I did on this arm, just because this one's stasis, in astasis. Now we're gonna draw the hand. I'm gonna just fix this a little bit because it got erased. Make it a little darker. Now for the hand, remember when your hand is straight down, the thumb is gonna point inwards. So keeping that in mind, draw my little half circle again. I'll start over here. I like starting at the pinky. I just find it easier. Draw my pinky. Draw the ring finger. Draw the middle finger. Remember, if you're going for more realistic, make your middle finger the longest, because that's what generally is. Or you can make them the same size. I made a couple of my fingers too small and a couple of them too thick. Like I said, the hand's usually a trickier horse to draw. Going to try that again to give you guys a better idea. Boom. Then draw the thumb. Remember not to make the thumb too big. Unless that's what you're going for in your character, then go ahead, draw as big as you want. But if you're just trying a normal person, following along with this video, just try to make those fingers look as normal as possible. Now we're gonna erase a little bit of that outline, make it so it's not so square. Then boom, we have our two hands. Now this video is going on a little longer, but we're gonna finish. There's not too much left to do. We'll go over shading in another video if you guys really want. So now we're gonna make this guy's chest a little more buff to match the rest of his body. That's not a little more buff, but a little more thicker. See, for guys, you're gonna want the chest sticking out just a little bit more than the rest of the body. For girls, you're going to want to accent more on the hips, like a lot more. You can barely notice I accent a little bit more on the chest. You can barely notice unless you know what you're looking for. Now for this side, you can barely notice the line in the first place. So we're just gonna add a little thickness, not too much more, just a little bit. As you can see the difference right there, it just barely add a little bit more, whereas this one I added a lot. Then we'll just kind of shove that into the legs a little bit. For this one, we're gonna go in the legs right now, cause you pretty much have your chest done. See? Since he has a shirt on, the chest is pretty much done. You don't have to add too much detail. Just kind of draw a line right where the hip line is, so you can tell that shirt. If you want to add a logo or anything, you can here. I'll add a little logo on mine. This is going to be like that little thing. And a triangle. And a circle. With a star inside, just to be a little random. Now we're going to work on getting legs. Legs are a little easier. They don't have to have that much muscle definition. Just a little bit. Maybe add a little thickness right there. You see? Erase this half of the outline of the bottom part. That looks like a pretty good leg. Then for the bottom part of this leg, we're just going to add a little like curve over here and a little curve right about here and bring it down. Erase where the kneecap is, and voila. Erase the rest of the first outline too. After you've drawn your leg and add a little muscle. we're going to pretend this guy's wearing tight jeans. So we're not going to add too many lines, maybe just a little one right there. If these were baggy jeans, like that's those type of jeans I like to make, you could barely even tell he has muscle. You just make like a bunch of a curvy line right here. Add a bunch of creases, lines like this, like that. Then add if you're showing the feet. Here, I'll show you guys how to draw the feet just in case you want to. This is just standard, like his feet would be like in this picture, one foot would be facing this way, one foot would be facing that way. If you're gonna draw a foot, it's kind of simple. It's just a little bit of a rectangle with a triangle on top and a triangle at the end. So, do you see that? You might want to add this a little bit. And if you're making the jeans, you make this really baggy, like so. But we're not. So, erase what I just did right there. If you guys keeping the baggy look, go ahead. I rather like it, but I'm not showing off the baggy look today. Now we're gonna work on this leg. It's pretty much the same. Add a little more curvature than we did on this leg, just because we didn't add too much space on his torso on this side. We want the legs to look as even as possible. We don't want to make it look like this guy slacks on leg day. Or just hops around on one foot all day. So then we'll add a little curvature again. Go all the way down over there. Add another little curvature. Go down over there. Erase the first outline. I'm just going to add a little more thickness to that part of the leg. Sorry if that seems a little sloppy right there. Let's do it around the side. So as you can see, these legs look generally the same. This might be a little thicker. I'm sorry about that. And we're going to add a little, I'm just going to add a little sleepy lines right there, make him look even creepier than he was. And that's how you draw a guy. I hope you guys liked the video. Please like and subscribe. Alright, go it out.